here in India. So it's fantastic to be here for the very first time and bring MotoGP to India. It's Jack Appleyard and Simon Crafar here to talk you through what we can expect here at the Bud International Circuit, a brand new venue, Simon, that all of the riders, I'm sure, are eagerly anticipating to get their first taste of it. You're a lucky so-and-so because you're one of, 3 people that's been out there on a bike today and managed to taste it for the very first time. So, big question, I'm sure everyone at home wants to know, what's it like?
I was extremely pleasantly surprised. First of all, going to a circuit that hasn't been used for a long time, we do that in Argentina, and often it takes a day to get it in the ballpark, you know, because there's so much dust and stuff blown around. Even if they've cleaned it, it just doesn't come up. That's not the case here. Like, I expected it, but it isn't. It's going to be green, meaning you need to get some rubber down, but it's not dirty, you know. So really pleased about that. Then the layout really pleasantly surprised me. I'm not exaggerating. It's wonderful. It's got sections like a lot of, circuits I love, like Portimao, a lot of blind entries that make it very difficult to learn, but very exciting once you do know where you're going. Then there's sections like Mugello, Hockenheim, Monza, these fast chicanes, which I really enjoy. Not first gear, I'm talking second, clicking third on a stock bike on the exit, stock 1000. Then a massive long straight, longer than Mugello. The exit onto it is much slower, but so I don't know if the top speed will go. On a stock 1000, it didn't accelerate hard enough to go faster than I went in Mugello, but these bikes do, you know, the MotoGP bikes, so maybe it will go. Then the braking area at the end is intimidating. I was telling you about it because lap after lap I just saw this corner coming so fast at the end. I braked too early, like, you know, it took me probably 10 goes to get in the ballpark. There's so many different types of corners in there that I think the rider's going to love it. The first day will be very difficult to learn, but like all the good circuits, you know, they're difficult to really figure out and go fast, but they're more rewarding when you do.
One of the hot spots that a lot of the riders have been speaking about to the media today, because of course it's the question that everybody has been asking them, is turn 8 in particular, with incredible banking, a real camber to it as well. The riders saying that they feel there could be 4 or 5 different lines that people opt to take through there, especially on that first day. For you, what was that like? How did that compare, or is it quite a unique corner?
It's a unique corner. I mean, I haven't ridden many like it. The shape of it is like spoon curve at Suzuka, but reversed, right. You know, because Suzuka's a left, this is a right. But this is banked where Suzuka's flat, and it's banked to the point where it's not far off Alton Park, you know, the big banking there. That track takes a lot of learning as well. But I never got it right on the GoPro video either. I didn't get it right because the blind entry makes it so difficult, and then it's one of those corners where you need to dab the brake and then let it go on a big bike. Maybe Moto3 don't even need the brakes because of the acceleration before, maybe not enough, but it is so tricky. Dab the brake and let it go. Going too fast, I think, will be the way to do it. And then if you get don't go in fast enough, like I was telling you, you're not going to get the exit right, which is very tricky as well. It's blind, over a brow, and then if you're leant over too much, accelerating, it's high side material, so you have to get wide to get the exit. This whole circuit we could go on for half an hour is challenging, really, really, and I'm smiling. Like these level of riders, I think once they learn it, are going to like it.
Extended sessions tomorrow as well, both in the morning and the afternoon, to allow the riders across all 3 classes more of an opportunity to get to learn this circuit. No hiding away from the fact that there were some safety concerns coming into the weekend from MotoGP riders. It looks as though, thankfully, they've come here and have been pleasantly surprised, and their expectations have been exceeded. I'm sure you've seen on social media a few issues with visas as well, but the good news to report is that all riders across all 3 classes are in India, are in the paddock, and team personnel are all here as well. So despite some hiccups, which often can be the case when going to new places, new countries for the very first time, great pleasure to say that we're on track for what should be a brilliant weekend. And we're coming to it, Simon. Let's switch our attention to the state of the World Championship, because Jorge Martin has made things interesting, shall we say. 8 rounds remaining, coming up over the next 10 weeks, and a sprint win and Grand Prix win on both Pecco Bagnaia and Marco Bezzecchi's home soil last time out in San Marino has really started to spice things up a little bit. He's certainly made sure that it's not wrapped up as some were expecting in Pecco Bagnaia's favour early on.
First of all, this far out in the championship, as good as Pecco looked, I say it every year, it's too dangerous is probably not the right word, but it's too difficult to say it's wrapped up. And this, when riders ride on the edge every weekend, with like you said, 8 rounds to go, it only takes like a Pecco at turn 2 at Catalunya, and an injury to keep him out, to everything to change, and it can happen to any rider. I don't like to tempt fate, talking about the dangers, but it's true. They ride right on the edge, and anything can happen. But Jorge rode wonderful, didn't he? And it looks to me like what I was waiting for has happened. He's made friends, found the setup, and yes, he's going to be dangerous. If he keeps hold of that feel, he's going to be very dangerous for the opposition, to try and beat. And then you could come out and say, well, the riders he beat were both injured, and the next one back retired, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So there's a different way to look at it. How well would he have gone at the that circuit with the 2 local boys fully fit? I think he would have had more of a fight on his hands.
I'm sure he would have done, but
he's riding amazing. There's no getting away from it.
Still got to go out there and twist the throttle, and he did it magnificently. You could say that it could have worked in the other direction. We spoke about it beforehand. Gino Borsoi's team boss said there was an expectation, given the fact that Bezzecchi and Bagnaia were injured, that I should go out and walk it this weekend. So the fact that he went out there and delivered the goods despite that expectation is a great sign for someone that the pair of us have said in previous weeks, previous months, that maybe that consistency wasn't there and he hasn't delivered when the expectation has been set high.
I'm a Jorge Martin fan of his talent, his speed. He's a real fighter when he gets out there. And all I was doing is being devil's advocate, seeing both sides, and like I think my job is supposed to be. And there's no doubt that Jorge, if he keeps that feel, which he lost for a little while, he's got it back. It is a different bike. This is the first time he's really had it on the 23 machine. Can he keep it? If he does, he's, like I said, he's dangerous for the opposition.
Of course, as we mentioned, injury concerns for both Bezzecchi and Bagnaia. Last time we're in racing action at San Marino. Fortunately, the pair of them look to be pretty much close to 100% full fitness. Now, Bezzecchi definitely a lot closer to that 3-digit figure than Bagnaia. Still a little bit of strapping for him, but I think he should be pretty much good to go for the pair of them. I'm sure they'll be looking to bounce back on Ducati overall. The question I wanted to ask earlier, but forgot. It seems like a silly question because everywhere we go is a Ducati circuit, but from your experience of doing a few laps out there, is this a place that may well suit some factory or some rider over others, or is it too difficult to say?
Well, there's a section that will suit Ducati, and that is the slow turn leading on to that massively long straight. I doubt you'll know technical points, but I don't think there's a circuit with a longer straight.
Cota, just.
Right. So, yeah, you're going to see...
It's long, though. It's very long.
It's crazy long. So, and with a very slow exit onto it. So, clearly, the Ducati's going to be very strong there. But there's a lot of different types of sections that will suit different riders and manufacturers. So, I'm really interested to see if it balances out at the end of the lap.
I want to, if we can, Simon, just touch, because it's first opportunity to speak to you after, of course, the San Marino Grand Prix, but also the Misano test as well, where there was a lot of talk, a lot of interest in what both Honda and Yamaha were going to bring to the table that day. Feedback from both camps, I'm sure, didn't match the expectations that they had. What was your general consensus on what happened there? And is there anything from that weekend that may well filter through to here in the rest of the season that could help both Fabio, Mark and the rest of those camps out? Because they're certainly needing some help at the moment.
I really worked hard at the Misano test, groundwork, talking to people, watching, even when I figured out when Fabio, for example, had the new engine in, because you can't see that externally. When I figured out which bike it was, I watched every lap that he did. Same with the Aero. I watched the Honda riders closely, to see what they did on different bikes, to get a feel of what was going on. Then, obviously, listen to the debriefs after to get confirmation, or at least their thoughts on it. And I've got to say, this machine disappointed hugely, because I was first of all listening to it, hoping it'd sound very different, having a different firing order or something to help them with their grip problems, like KTM have already done beginning of this year. And I thought Honda will do something, similar, surely. But no, it had a slight different sound reaction to the mechanics' hand warming it up, so you could tell they've done something different, but it's not radical.
No.
Not different firing order, something like that, because it sounds like the Honda just reacts a little different to his throttle hand. The important thing came when Mark got off this machine that we're seeing here now, which was not Bradl's race weekend machine. They had one of those each to try, Mir and Mark, but when he got off that machine, which would have had the different engine as well, because Bradl wasn't allowed to race with a different engine, he has to ride a homologated one. So when Mark rode the one that I think is a 24 engine as well, he got back on his old bike and went faster. And that just told the whole story, like, Well,
he said afterwards, at lunchtime at Misano, he went to speak to the gathered press there and said, riding style, very different. You had to change the way in which you ride to make this new prototype.
Very different chassis, yeah.
Yeah, to make it work. But the problems are still there. They're exactly the same. And it looks as though they're back at square one.
And like I've been saying for a long time, I genuinely feel it's coming from the engine. That's why I was hoping for a different radical change, and we didn't get it. Yamaha, I don't know if we'll get a time to speak about that. You can sign up tell me if I have or not, but...
Don't think so.
Okay, in that case,
we'll say...
It wasn't all negative, put it that way.
No. Chance to potentially speak about that in between our first and second press conferences. In the second one coming up, we've got both Marc Marquez and Fabio Quartararo, and plenty to talk about with those two. But we kick off, as ever, with the top four men in the MotoGP World Championship ahead of this. What are we now? I'm trying to calculate. Round 12, 13 we are. It's getting to that stage of the season where it's difficult to keep track. Yeah, there are 8 rounds remaining. And joining us, chatting to Matt Burt, will be Pecco Bagnaia, the world champion, his closest title rivals, Marco Bezzecchi, Jorge Martin, and KTM's Brad Binder as well. Enjoy.